Hello, my name is Rickard, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to recreate the poster for mile 22. I saw this poster on impawards.com. There's actually a series of character posters that were done for mile 22, and they all have this really cool kind of graphic bitmap, old fax, old photocopy look. So I worked out how to recreate that in Photoshop. I'm going to show you how to do it in this tutorial. If you want to download the assets that I use to follow along, you can do that. I have included a link in the description of this video. So go ahead and download those, and then let's get started. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is create a document that's 2000 wide by 3000 high, 72 pixels, RGB color. I'm going to use working RGB and hit create. All right, next I'm going to go File, Place Embedded, and in the assets here we have a man with gun. This is a photo I took of my friend, and I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. Maybe something like this. And then pull it down a little bit. So I think something like this. All right, good. So now what we're going to do is add a bitmap effect to this. Now what I want to do is I want to apply it at 3 different levels. So we've got really big squares and then smaller and smaller than that. So I need to make sure whatever I decide on my first number is going to be divisible by at least 3. So 60, for example, I can do 60, 30, 15. But if I did 50, I could do 50, 25, and I can't do a decimal pixel, so I couldn't do 12.5. So that's just something to think with. In this case, I'm going to do 60, 30, 15. So I know I'm going to need 3 copies of this. So let's go ahead and convert it to a smart object. And then I'm going to make a copy. Actually, before I make a copy, I'm going to go ahead and apply the mosaic, which is what we're going to use to create this pixel effect. So this is mosaic, and we're going to make this first cell size 60. And now we have kind of our base plate. I'm going to make a copy of this, and for this one I'm going to cut it in half, so 30. And then for the last one, I'm going to make this 15. And then finally, I'm going to have a copy on the very top that has no smart filter. And then basically we're going to use masks to decide where we want higher detail. So if I hold down Option and click on the mask, it's going to hide everything when it adds the mask. I'm going to go ahead and do that to all but the bottom layer. And for the bottom layer, I'm going to add a mask without holding Option so that I can hide anything I want to. So starting with our middle level detail, I'm going to go with a white brush. So just B for the brush tool. Make sure I'm on a soft brush like this. And then I can kind of scale up here and just start painting where I want a little more high detail. So maybe around here, around the hairline, this gun, this hand, maybe the legs down here. So something like that. Then for this one, where I want even more detail, I'm going to do primarily the gun and the face area here. So something like that. And then for this one, which is the one without any pixelization, I'm primarily just going to do the face, and I'm going to take the opacity down on that so that we're still seeing some of the pixelation underneath. So maybe around 40%. Okay, so now with that done, I don't want some of these bigger ones popping out. So now I'm going to go on to this back layer, go back on B for my brush. I'm going to hit X so that black is my foreground color, and just paint out some of these larger ones that are a bit distracting. I don't mind the ones that pop up down here. So there you go. That kind of puts into place the basics that we need to create the pixel effect. Now what I want to do is create like the bad fax look. And to do that, we're going to do a little trick here. And the first thing we're going to do is add a pattern. And double click here. I'm going to get my pattern here, and I'm going to go to my nuclei texture patterns. And I've created kind of a film grain pattern in here. It's this one right here. I'll include it in the assets, but it's also part of my full patterns kit. So there you go. That's the pattern I want. I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to actually put this on hard mix. So what this is going to do is it's going to push all the information into either the black or the white of this pattern. So very, very few colors in between. So like that, I'm going to take the fill down to 80 to just get a little bit of feathering between. So here you can see 100 and here you can see 80. So you can see it's just adding a little bit of feather to these points there. And then on top of this, I'm going to add a gradient map. And this is what's going to do the coloring for us. And the gradient map is going to go from the left side represents our dark. So I'm going to go in here, and this is going to be kind of a newspaper gray color. So 151, and let's do 85 here. And that's my light color, so I need to put it on this side. And then my dark color, which is the other side here, this one, I'm just going to make it that, not quite black. So just add 15 there. So just like that. Already we're getting a really cool look here. Let's hit OK. Now the beauty of this is these two here are doing all the heavy lifting of my effect. So if I put these in a folder, I can call them newspaper effect or fax effect, whatever you want to call it. And then we can add elements underneath here and you'll see what happens. So here I'm just going to grab like a concrete or a grunge texture. Let's see here. And this is my full pack of concrete textures, which I'll include a link to, but I have included the one I'm using here in the assets. So there you go. I'm going to pull this in. Let's go ahead and make it bigger. You can already see this is what it looks like, but under this effect, it's already creating this cool look. So just like that, I can put this on multiply. Obviously, it's way too dark right now. So I'm going to do Command M to bring up my curve. And I want to bring my light point to hit the white there. So I really just have those few small dark elements being added here. So those right there. And I may even want to put this underneath so that my man doesn't get that texture on him. So something like that. Let's go ahead and close this. I also feel this is a little too dark. So I can go ahead and add a layer. We can call this lightening or lightening. And we're just going to put this on screen. Or we could put it on soft light if we don't want such a strong effect. I'm going to go B for my brush, and then D to default my colors, X to make my foreground color white, and then with this soft brush, I'm going to take the flow down to maybe 20, and then just start painting in where I feel like it should be a little bit lighter. There you go. Gotten a little more nice detail in there. Okay, next I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded, and again in the Assets folder we have the stripe damage. This is just going to add some stripes. First thing I want to do is invert this, so I can just do that with Image, Adjustments, Invert, or Command I, and then I'm going to put this on Difference. And what that'll do is in the dark areas it'll be dark, but in the lighter areas it'll actually invert it and kind of give me this nice negative effect. This is far too strong right now, so let's put it maybe on 40, maybe 50, nah, 40. So 40 is just enough for it to show up, and if there's a part like in the face area here, I don't really want it that strong, if at all, so I can just add a mask to the layer and just paint it out of this face area, something like that. All right, and the other thing I want to do is kind of add a few areas that are breaking away. So I'll show you. Let's do File, Place Embedded. I'm going to grab this bitmap damage here. I'm going to reverse this and just make it a bit bigger here. So something like this. Let's go ahead and bring this above our newspaper effect group. And then if I go to channels, I can command and click on RGB, and that'll make a selection of all the white. So now I can turn this off. I actually want to invert my selection, so I'll go inverse. Now I just have the black squares selected. I can go down to one of these. Let's take this one here, the one with medium pixelation. I'm going to make a copy of that, and then option click on the mask, fill it with white, and then invert my selection, which is Shift Command I, and then fill this with black. So option delete fills with your foreground color. So now I can option click on the mask again. And what I can do with this whole layer is just kind of drag it down. And you'll see now it's creating this effect of some of these being a little bit off. Just get these nice little artifacts there. Take the opacity down even more to maybe something like that. And obviously you can play with this all you want, adding different things. And so long as you're adding them under the newspaper effect, everything is going to get this really nice newspaper effect. For the purposes of this tutorial, I think this looks pretty good. The next thing to just wrap it up is adding some text. So let's go to our type tool. I'm going to make my color black here. I'm going to use the font called Press Start 2P. It's a Google font. And here we'll just put, our actor's name. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We can add the release date down here. Oops. Down here. If you want to reduce the space between letters, put your cursor between there, hold down Option, and with the left arrow key, you can reduce the kerning between letters. So, like that. Now for these two, I want them to have the newspaper effect. So I'm going to take both of these, put them under the newspaper effect. And if I just bring down the opacity a bit, it's going to start breaking through the background, right? Because it's not quite 100% black. So you're going to start seeing white points in between there. So right away, by just reducing the opacity to 77, it already looks like it's incorporated into this background. Okay, and then the last thing is a big like mile 22 here. We're going to match our original reference. I'm just going to make kind of a red color. Make sure I'm above newspaper effect. For this, I'm going to use a font called Swiss 911B Ultra Compressed. And we'll just type mile 22. I'm going to select all, go to my characters, make sure that the kerning is, or the tracking is set to 0. That's really all I want to do there. And then Command T, and then we can make this bigger, kind of stretch across here, like this. Bring it down to about there. Now for this, I want some of this grunge to also come through. The problem is if I put it in the newspaper, below the newspaper effect, I'm going to lose my color. So what I'm going to do is just double click here on the right side of the name. That will bring up my blending options. And down here under Blend If, I'm going to go to underlying layer and start moving this around, see what kind of effect I get. So I don't like that. Let's see what happens if I do this. Don't really like that, although I do like what's happening here. So I think what we're going to have to do, I wish this was smaller. Hang on. What's the best way to see this? That's why you need a bigger screen. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to do this. That way we can have it over here, and then we'll double click this again. Okay, there you go. All right, so I'm going to move this to the right, move this to the left, and now, so by actually flipping these two around, you can see I'm starting to get that breakthrough that I want. So that's another little trick. If you did not know that, you can actually flip these two around. So I'm taking the one on this side, bringing it to the right side, and this one, and crossing over there. And now we're just going to find that sweet spot where we have a lot of breaking of our letters, but the majority of the letters are there. And usually I would separate these, but because of this look, which is very like a thresholdy look, I'm actually not going to. I'm going to leave them together. So let's hit OK there. The other thing I want to do is just add some breaking here. So I can do that with my stripe damage. I'm just going to hold down Option, bring that to the top, delete the layer mask, clear the smart filters, and then put this back to normal and 100%. So this is what I want. I'm going to do Command T and just make this smaller so it's closer to the size of my letters here. So maybe something like this. And now what I want to do is take this and turn it into a mask. So pretty easy way to do that is just go to Channels, hold down Command, click here, and then go onto this layer and just click there. And you can see right away it's cut out a bunch of those lines. I may want to do a similar thing with the bitmap. So I'm going to pull this to the top there. But in this case, I want to go to Channels, Command click here. I'm going to invert the selection. So now all the black is selection. I just want this black selected. With my marquee tool, I can hold down Shift and Option and then intersect that. So now I just have that selected. I can use this to make a few holes here. So I'm going to right mouse click, transform selection. And maybe here on my mask, I want to fill it with black. So Option delete. Maybe another spot right here. Maybe down here. And here. So just enough to break it up a bit. I think that looks pretty cool. The last thing I want to do is add a little black grunge on top of the mile 22. For that, I can go ahead and just use my same concrete texture down here. Hold down Option so that it makes a copy, drag it to the top. Put this, well, it's already on multiply, so maybe just make it black and white. And then hold down Option and clip it on top of this. I don't like how it's aligning with the breaks, so I think I'm just going to drag this down so that we have different texture area there, something like that. And yeah, that looks pretty good. So there you go. You can use this technique obviously on many other things. The key to it is this pattern fill on hard mix and then using the gradient map to color it. Although even without it, it's a really cool effect without the gradient map, because you get this really nice thing where the colors are very high contrast. So even without the gradient map, it's a cool look. The gradient map gives it more of that old facsimile or old photocopy look. So there you have it. That's how you recreate that bitmap photocopy look in Photoshop. And hopefully you learned some tips, tricks, and techniques that you can use in your own projects and your own artwork. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel, leave a like, leave a comment, share this video, turn on notifications, and here's some other videos that you can check out. I'll see you next time.